When you read a work of literature, you get to read about a life experience through the eyes of someone other than yourself. You get to walk on the shoes of a character whose life is different than your own. A good book can help you think outside the box, identify with the people who have experienced things that you have not experienced. It's evident that throughout time, literature has been a clear reflection of history. In every part of the world, literature has been more or less an expression of society. Many pieces of literature are set in historical contexts, allowing the reader to learn about history in a personalized, concentrated way. The stories told in works of literature illustrate how it would feel to live through times that are totally unfamiliar to our own. For example, the earlier form of poetry is the epic. In Italian, Greek, German, or Indian epic, we can find a clear reflection of the old social history of the country. Mark closely the conquest of Beowulf, the Iliad, or the Odyssey, and you will find in them a picture of the life and society of the countries concerned in these well-known works of literature. The most realistic form of literature are the stories and the novels. They deal particularly with the problem of social, economic, and political life of a country, which allows the writer to reflect contemporary history. Many stories and novels deal completely with historical themes, and such works are essentially realistic and serve as a correct picture of society. Many great works of literature clearly represent the historical period in which they were created in. The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today by Mark Twain and Charles Warner is a total representation of America in the 19th century. With the use of imagination, the writers were able to create a fictional novel that personifies the reality of the the term Gilded Age, commonly given to the era between 1877 and 1893, comes from the title of Mark Twain's and Charles Warner's book The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today. The title of the book is a contrast between an ideal golden age and a less worthy Gilded Age. As golden is only a thin layer of gold over a baser metal, the title now takes a negative meaning to the novel's time. Characteristics of this historical period are 1. Rapid economic growth. 2. New products and technologies. 3. Industrial workers and farmers did not enjoy the new wealth. 4th, politicians were largely corrupt and inefficient. And finally, 5. Most Americans wanted political and social reforms, but they couldn't agree on what. The United States had long viewed itself in idealistic terms. Small farmers and craftsmen were now confronted by the emergence of a society divided between the haves and the have-nots, a society in which many poor workers struggled just to survive, while an emerging industrial and financial society lived in mansions. Some Americans celebrated the new wealth, others lamented it. The book, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, was published in 1873. The work was written between the late 1840s to the early 1870s. It's a non-fiction satire novel, and the subjects include the United States, 19th century politicians, and moral corruption. Finally, the locations include the United States, Washington, D.C., Tennessee, and Missouri. The theme of the novel is based on the greed of getting rich using the land speculation which pervades in the society. The novel revolves around a Tennessee family who is constantly trying to gain wealth by getting the right time to sell 75,000 acres of land. This unimproved land was acquired by C. Hawkins, the patriarch. Going through a lot of adventure, the family is unsuccessful in selling the land and the patriarch dies. The rest of the story concentrates on an adopted daughter named Laura. Lara then goes to become a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Using a senator's help, she is able to enter society and tries to persuade the congressman to convince federal government to buy her family's land. A parallel story written by Warner takes place. Two upperclassmen, Henry and Philip, are seeking fortunes in the land. However, they both have different personalities. Henry is a salesman and a natural lobbyist, while Philip is a slow fellow but a good-hearted. Philip is in love with Ruth, a doctor. At the end of the novel, Lara is unable to acquire enough votes for passing a law so the federal government would buy her land. She kills her lover and dies disheartened and broke after failing at a teaching career. On the other hand, Philip and Ruth end up together. He finds Carl with his engineering skills, while Henry is presumed to live carelessly using his intelligence. The novel may not have a huge impact if the reader doesn't understand the time and place in which it was written. The story of these individuals represent America at the time. The main interest of each of these characters was to become wealthy under any circumstance. This is exactly what the writers were criticizing, the lack of morals and corruption in the society. An important symbol throughout the story is Washington, D.C. The national capital provides a second major target of satire as the primary setting for the second half of the novel, which depicts the city as a source of intrigue and corruption, in which every politician has a hand in someone else's pocket. The personification of the entire capital city is represented with the Senator Abner, who steals profit for himself, first in the scheme to develop the university. Although more than a century has passed since its publication, the novel's satiric observation of political and social life in Washington, D.C. remains constant. This book is said not to match the theme of modern Gilded Age, for the reason that maybe it was written in the very beginning. Nowadays, modern Gilded Age is based on the corporations, industrializations, and more importantly, the beginning of the modern American society. A Thought is not one of Twain's better-known works. It has appeared in more than 100 editions since its original publication. The book is remarkable for two reasons. One, it's the only novel Twain wrote with a collaborator, and second, its title very quickly became synonym with graft, materialism, and corruption in public life. With time, the title of this book became the name of this historical period. It serves as a source of information for any kind of reader who is trying to understand America. It proved the idea that literature is not simply a form of art or imagination, but a door to enter the past. Throughout this presentation, literature has been exposed as a source of historical information. Using the example of the book The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, it's evident that this claim is true. Literature has served as a way of self-expression, using artistic elements for people who lived before us, and it will continue to happen in the future.